Hello everyone, good to have you today. The Cinnamon desktop environment remains one of my favorites for a long time, as it is trivial to customize and takes almost no time to learn with its very traditional menu and window management system. The Linux Mint team developed Cinnamon, and they have released a beta of their upcoming Linux distribution called Mint 21 Vanessa. We'll take it for a test drive right after this. I'll leave a download link for the beta ISO in the description below. Let's insert the virtual disk and boot the machine. Let's start the Linux Mint 21 Cinnamon live environment. And take a look at the new Cinnamon 5 desktop. Our connection for networking is already established, so we won't show this message again. Just want to fix the screen resolution and fonts here quickly. So I'm going into settings and display, and we'll choose 1920 by 1080 and hit apply. We'll keep this new configuration. So you can see fractional monitor scaling is enabled, but that's experimental. I find it doesn't work very well with the Red Hat QXL video drivers that I'm running here on this virtual machine. So instead, I'll just increase the text scaling factor up by 20% to 1.2. So you guys can see what I'm doing here a little better. Okay, so we're ready to launch the Linux Mint installer, which I believe is the same as Ubuntu, the Ubiquity. The familiar Ubiquity program. And there it is. You may wish to read the release notes, so I'll click on that. That seems to launch Firefox, yes. Let's close the privacy notice. So this is Linux Mint 21, codename Vanessa. It's a long-term support release. Has some known issues that goes through. The Snap Store is disabled, which is good news, and we'll check that later in this video. Home directory encryption. Benchmarks have demonstrated that home directory encryption is slower than full disk encryption. I found that not to be much of a factor here with fast storage and fast CPUs. Your mileage may vary, of course. So, few issues and some instructions in case you run into any difficulty installing Linux Mint. If your graphics card is from NVIDIA, I'm sorry for you, but there are a few extra steps here to install. Yeah, okay. Well, let's continue. Looks like we're good to go. So English US locale is fine with the keyboard layout. And we also like to install the multimedia codecs, which require that we configure secure boot, which I've done for this virtual machine. And I've also set up the security key, or the machine owner's key, or mock key, for it as well. So I'm just going to enter that here for configuring secure boot. So I'm entering my mock key here twice, machine owner key. You got to do that setup to install the multimedia codecs, which is pretty simple to do. So we'll continue. So we've got option erase disk and install Linux Mint or something else, and you can do custom partitions. We won't deal with that today. For advanced features, you've got use logical volume management, and with the new Linux Mint installation, which allows you to do whole disk encryption. LVM complicates things if I want to recover a system, so I generally not enable that when I install Linux in general. So if we just leave that alone and go with the standard partition layout, we've got two partitions, the EFI partition and the ext4 root partition, which is fine. 2 partitions are more than enough to install Linux Mint. So it detected my local time zone, which is the Los Angeles one, or US Pacific. My name is Steven. I'll name this computer Mint21B, B for beta. Username is Steven. I'll give myself a password. I'll enter it twice to confirm. Require my password to log in is fine. I also like to encrypt my home folder. Again, I don't see a huge problem with the home folder, as long as the system's not encrypted, right? All my important files that need encryption are in my home folder anyway. So it goes ahead and installs the system. It'll take a bit, but I'll skip over much of this through video editing. Always comes in handy. Hopefully won't bore you guys too much. We want to get to the meat of the video as soon as possible. Give it a good test drive. Okay, it's installed. Let's go ahead. We can continue to test or restart now. Let's go ahead and restart. Yes, I press enter to remove the thing. Okay, it's restarted. This is LightDM Display Manager, the Light Display Manager. Very good choice for Cinnamon. We already have our networking configured properly with a wired Ethernet connection. Before we go through the welcome steps here, let me just fix the screen resolution and font sizes again, as we did just a moment ago. So 1920 by 1080. Apply. Keep the new configuration. Again, fractional scaling doesn't really work for my Red Hat QXL video card. Para-virtualized. But it might work for you guys, so something for you guys to test. All right, we'll also increase the text scaling factor to 1.2. That's a lot more legible, hopefully, for you. Okay. So this is our welcome screen. Welcome to Linux Mint. It will guide you through your first steps, it says here. So let's go to first steps. So desktop colors, you guys probably know already, I prefer the dark theme. It's better for my eyes. And we'll stick with the Mint highlight colors. And for the panel layout, down at the bottom of the screen, we'll go with the modern large panel with grouped windows and small system tray. Next step is the system snapshots via Timeshift. Timeshift is currently being maintained by the Linux Mint team, I hear. So this is good. We've got rsync because we don't have Btrfs today. So let's configure it for storing the snapshot location on the root partition, which is dev VDA2. Snapshot levels, keep 5 daily. The scheduling looks good. That's the default. We'll exclude our home directory files. You definitely want to use a real backup program for those important documents you wish to preserve through system failures. So the setup is complete. The system can be rolled back to a previous date by restoring a snapshot. Very good. That's the point of Timeshift. Let's close by clicking Finish. Let's create our first post-install Timeshift snapshot. And there we go. And I'm going to comment this snapshot. Typically, I know the date's already in there, but typically I just type a comment, say post-install snapshot, and then I put in my own date code, just in case. It's a little redundant in this case, but it's all right. So it got 16.7 gigabytes available on the root partition. A lot of people install Timeshift and then they do their snapshots and then they run out of space. It's no good because that destroys your system. So be careful with that. So driver manager, looks like we don't need any additional drivers for this QEMU virtual machine. So we'll move ahead to the update manager. Update Manager handles security updates, software updates, and also guides you with the system snapshots. which we just did already. We already set that up. So looks like fun. Let's switch to a local mirror. Yes, so we've got a bunch of updates already to do, even though the beta has just been released. Let me put in my password. And let's make sure we speed up the update process by selecting a local mirror. So what it does is it times and rates all the mirrors. Then you just select the fastest mirror for both the main Vanessa repository, which is directly from Linux Mint. So berkeley.edu is fastest for me. Same thing with the Jammy Jellyfish base system upon which Linux Mint is built on, right? So we'll do the same thing here. Looks like accretivenetworks.net is the fastest. And so we'll need to update our apt cache for both of these, main and base. Let's see what else is configured. Probably nothing else. No PPAs, no personal package archives. CD-ROM disk is not used after post-install. And some maintenance utilities here. Missing keys, duplicate entries, removing packages, foreign packages, etc. Okay, we won't go into detail with that. So let's go ahead. Everything is already selected, including security updates. It also proposes to update the Linux kernel and its associated packages. 5.15, update 41, it appears. Update 41.44. Okay, so let it download and let the updates install. Again, we're going to edit out much of this process. It takes time. Please be patient. And configures the new Linux image. So it says reboot required. Not surprising since we upgraded the kernel at least. Probably also the system libraries. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's do a quick reboot or restart. And we're back to LightDM. Log in, and a little video memory lag there. It's okay, it's a QEMU virtual machine, but it works wonderful for my purposes. Always test on virtual machines if you can before installing on real hardware. So here are the settings. Let me increase the mouse cursor size or pointer size, something bigger so you can follow along what I'm clicking on. Let's go back to first steps. So we just did the update manager. Let's go back to system settings. That would be the next step. Let's take a closer look here. And I click launch. So this is pretty much your standard Cinnamon settings panel. So here you have, for desktop backgrounds, you have the standard Linux Mint desktops pictures and also the Vanessa wallpaper. And I find the new Vanessa wallpaper to be rather pretty, actually, a pretty selection. Very nice pictures and designs. Also, you can add your own pictures, obviously, from your picture collection. All right. So for themes, here are the available icon themes. So Linux Mint comes with a whole bunch of Mint themes. Also for controls, as you can see, a huge selection. So you can really customize right out of the box. You don't have to download any additional themes if these work for you. Different mouse pointers for desktop as well. You have all the bunch of good spectrum of desktop themes here. If they don't do it for you, you can always click on the Add Remove tab. And you have sorted by popularity third-party outside themes. So Adapta Nocto is obviously the most popular one still. I use it quite often myself in other Cinnamon installations. It's very good if it's not Mint theme. Let's see what else we have here. Nothing that stands out too much in my eyes. Oh, there is a privacy button here. So remember recently accessed files, you can turn that off. You also can turn off internet connectivity check. yeah, kind of handy if you're kind of worried about that sort of thing. For this private network today, it's not important for me. Blue Man is new. If I had Bluetooth hardware here, I would show you it, but I've used it elsewhere and it's great. So, system info. So we're running kernel 5.15, 041 generic. Yeah, pretty cool. So we looked at driver manager already. Here's Firewall. So let me type in my password here. Ah, yes, they're using the uncomplicated firewall with the Gnome user interface. So very simple. Nothing fancy with this firewall. You have different profiles select from home, office, you know, different places. You can also configure the LightDM login window. I double-clicked that by accident. Sorry, guys. A single click with the mouse is all you need with the system settings panel. So here you can configure your background, your themes, even your mouse cursor, what to do with the user list, guest sessions, automatic login you configure here if you've got a kiosk situation that you want to configure. Software sources, I think we looked at this already with the update manager. Yes, so it's the same as the update manager. So we just have two sources, the main Vanessa mirror and the base Jammy Jellyfish mirror. And that's it for here. So we've got users and groups. I find this kind of handy if you're not too familiar with Unix or Linux system administration. You can click on a user here and click on groups and select what the group membership of your user looks like. So you can select or deselect existing groups here on this panel. And you can also change from administrator to standard user if you prefer. Under the Groups tab, you've got the available groups that are already configured on the system. And say if you didn't want the tape group available, you can delete it, or you can add more groups as you see fit. So very handy little utility if you're not comfortable with the terminal or the shell to do basic system administration. So for Software Manager, we have just a very generic like GNOME Software Manager, the kind that you see in many different distros. So nothing unusual here. So if I type, for example, something that's already installed like Firefox, let's see what source it comes from. If I type Firefox here in the search box, you see that Firefox is installed. And if you scroll down a bit and you look at the version, it's 102, Linux Mint 1, Vanessa. So this is Linux Mint Team's compilation of Firefox. Unlike Ubuntu, it is not a snap. It's an actual regular apt Debian package. You can also have option to install the Flatpak version of Firefox. Flatpak seems to be already enabled out of the box for Linux Mint 21. A very good choice. I really like using Flatpaks myself to keep my home directory as modular as possible. Just containerize everything I can and sandbox things as needed. Very cool. So we've seen the firewall already, so I'll skip that. Let me go to the documentation tab and launch the main documentation for Linux Mint 21. Yeah, okay, it comes with a nice, as usual for Linux Mint, a nice install guide, a user guide, in English only, unfortunately. A troubleshooting guide, also in English only. Translation guide, I guess you can help translate this to other languages. And a developer guide. Very cool. We won't go into that too much to keep this video short. For new features, so it says here, Linux Mint 21 Cinnamon is a long-term release. They replaced the Blue Man, the Blueberry with Blue Man Bluetooth Manager, which we've already seen. Also have thumbnailers for some common file types. And it was identified in the past as a usability issue, so that's included. So it recognizes app images, EPUBs, MP3, raw pictures, and WebP, or web pictures. I think that's what it stands for. Very handy. Sticky notes, if you need it. I don't really rely on sticky notes very much, but good for an office environment, right? For business use, business desktop of Linux Mint. Process manager, or monitor rather, is included here. They added it to Linux Mint to detect automated updates and automated system snapshots running in the background. So in case your system starts running slow for some reason, look down at the tray and see if it's doing something. Very handy. Time shift is now maintained as an XApp, and its translations are done on Launchpad. So yeah, so Linux Mint has taken over the time shift development. That's very good. I'm looking forward to it becoming a little more flexible and not so hard-coded with, for example, in Btrfs with at and at home subvolume fixed configuration. So hopefully they can take care of that soon. Cinnamon 5.4 has been using a mutter rebase, so it's straight from Gnome 3. So basically, it shares the window manager with Gnome desktop pre-40 series. So we've got a new window manager. The display settings were backported from Gnome Control Center into Cinnamon Control Center. Yeah, so it looks pretty nice. One thing I noticed Gnome doesn't have is fractional scaling enabled yet, but Cinnamon has it. See, so yeah, it's not just a direct translation from Gnome. Cinnamon has its own features. A whole bunch of other improvements, such as the JavaScript interpreter here. I've had problems with that in the past of it crashing all the time, especially when configuring Gnome. Seems to have improved lately. New desktop wallpaper and artwork. Main components are kernel 5.15. So it'll be receive security updates until 2027. So long-term stability. So 5 years from a few weeks when it actually gets released. Not bad. Until 2024, 2 years from now, they won't change anything in the base configuration, so it allows you to easily and conveniently upgrade and follow along with Linux Mint's progress. So trouble-free upgrades is always welcome. So web forums, IRC chat room for help if you want to speak with other people and not read too much documentation. So again, Linux Mint's forum, because it's really designed for entry-level use as a Linux distro, has a very friendly community with a lot of participants and a lot of posts and subjects, etc. You can learn a lot from this, so highly recommended. Let me look quickly at the Linux Mint's main page. So they're still pushing Una, which is Linux Mint 20.3. Which is the last official release. And yeah, definitely give it a try. I think, especially if you haven't tried it before, you might be surprised. It's a very turnkey-like, appliance-like Linux distro. No fuss, no muss. Very good for people that are transitioning from Microsoft Windows, for example. So you've got the XFCE beta release to look at as well if you prefer XFCE, and also Mate. But the flagship release for Linux Mint, of course, is their very own Cinnamon desktop, which the latest Vanessa is just an example. You can donate here if you have the means and the willingness to do so. Definitely support this project. They're not charging us for anything here, so it's very nice and generous of them. Unlike certain other distributions that ask for money. Beginner distros, rather. I think that's a scam, in my opinion. I'll leave it there. I think you know which distro I'm talking about. All right, so just quickly look at the default applications installed through the accessible through the menu. I won't go through this in any detail. Just showing you. You can pause anytime you like. Just want to show you what's installed by default out of the box. As you can see, it's a very healthy set of apps and tools and utilities. Yes, Cinnamon is a very nice menu system. It's very easy, especially if you're transitioning from the major desktop operating system. Okay, so let me open a terminal here, make it bigger, and let's make it full screen. All right, let's check to make sure we're fully up to date. So sudo apt update, and it looks like we are up to date. Cool. So let's see if there are any leftover packages. Sudo apt auto remove. Nope. No orphans or anything else there. So we got a healthy system. NeoFetch is already installed. So here, as you can see, Cinnamon 5.4.2. The window manager is Mutter, just like with Gnome. Window manager theme is mint-y, dark. The memory consumption, Cinnamon is a medium weight in desktop environment, in my opinion. So 845 megabytes used is less than Gnome, for example. The file system table is this. So we've got devvda1 is mounts /boot/EFI. That's your EFI partition of VFAT. And devvda2 is the root partition, which is an ext4 file system. It also has a swap file, so it's swaps to file, which is fine. That's the default. I think it's the default in Ubuntu as well. So disk usage for the root file system, we have, including the snapshot we just took. Keep that in mind. Snapshot took quite a bit of space. So including the first snapshot, 17 gigs and change of disk space used, 17 gigabytes. So it gives you an idea as to how heavy this distro is. Swap file, it assigned a negative priority of 2, and the size is 1.5 gigabytes. Snap list. Let's see what snaps are installed. Snap not found, but can be installed with sudo apt install snapd. No, I do not want to do that. I have no interest in snaps. I don't like snaps, and that's why I'm avoiding Ubuntu whenever possible. The desktop version, not the server, obviously. Flatpak is installed. So let's see where it pulls the Flatpaks from. Flatpak remote shows the standard FlatHub system. So it pulls from flathub.org. So pretty cool. Let's see what Flatpak's already installed with Flatpak list. So no Flatpaks installed. So pretty lean system. Yes. Okay. Pretty cool. So let's type Flatpak search Chrome. Say you want to install latest Google Chrome. So Flatpak search Chrome would check the flathub.org list, and as you can see, 103 stable branch version is available. So you can install it if you need it from Flatpak. Cool. All right. So there is a brief overview and test drive of Linux Mint 21 Vanessa. For new and more experienced Linux users alike, you will have a tough time finding a distro that's easier to install or more intuitive. For Linux developers, I'll continue to recommend Fedora, and I'll leave Arch to the tech enthusiasts and those interested in learning about and tinkering with the operating system, myself included. For everyone else seeking a no-fuss Linux Ubuntu-compatible experience, I heartily recommend giving Mint a try. Thanks so much for watching. Please share this video with your friends, and if you liked it, do give it a thumbs up. Until next time, have a lot of fun and take care.